Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sania's English podcast.
Thank you, Sania. Today's topic is one of the most inspiring figures in Islamic history, Hazrat Ali. May Allah be pleased with him.
We are doing a real deep dive today into the life of a man who truly changed the world.
Yeah, he really did. It is an amazing story.
I mean, we are looking at a historical figure who managed to be a fierce warrior on the battlefield, a brilliant scholar, and a perfectly just leader of a huge empire.
Right, he wore so many different hats, you know?
Exactly. And the goal of our discussion today is not just to recite historical dates.
No, that would be boring.
Right. We want to understand his character, we want to look at his daily decisions, and most importantly, we want to find practical life lessons that you, our listener, can use in your own life right now.
I love that goal. There is so much we can learn from him.
But looking at the timeline, we are discussing events from 1400 years ago.
That is a very long time.
It really is. So a lot of people might wonder, why should a modern person living with smartphones and AI spend time studying a leader from the 7th century?
Well, human nature does not change, even if our technology does.
Oh, that is a great point.
Right. I mean, we still face the exact same fundamental struggles today.
Like what?
Like corrupt leaders, unequal wealth, political division, and just the personal struggle to stay humble when you become successful.
Yeah, staying humble is really hard for a lot of people.
Exactly. And the reason millions of people still study his every word today is because he gave us a perfect model.
A model for what, exactly?
A model for how to handle power without losing your soul.
Wow. Handling power without losing your soul. That is powerful.
It is. So to truly understand the leader he became, we have to travel back to his childhood.
Let's do it. Where does his story start?
It begins in the desert city of Mecca.
Okay, Mecca.
Yeah. And when he was born, his mother actually gave him the name Haider.
Haider, what does that mean?
In Arabic, Haider translates to lion.
Oh, wow. A lion. That fits him well.
It really does. But his father, Abu Talib, decided to change it.
Why did he change it?
He chose the name Ali, which means elevated or high.
Ali, elevated. I like that. So what was it like growing up in Mecca at that time?
Well, you have to understand, Mecca was not a green valley with farm.
Right, no rivers or anything.
Exactly. It was a harsh, dry desert. People relied completely on trade caravans just to survive.
So it was all about business?
Yes. And the tribal leaders held all the wealth and all the power.
I see. So if you had money, you had power.
Exactly. And Mecca's economy was very fragile. Abu Talib was a highly respected leader, but even he was vulnerable to the harsh weather.
What happened?
When young Ali was just 5 years old, a terrible famine hit the area.
Oh, no. Just 5 years old.
Yes, just a small child. And a famine in the desert is a total disaster.
Because there is no backup plan, right? No rain means no food.
Right, no rain, no trade, no supplies. The local economy just collapsed. Families who were comfortable suddenly had nothing to eat.
That is terrifying. Did Abu Talib have a large family?
He did. He had a large family, and he was really struggling to feed his children during this crisis.
I cannot even imagine how scary that must be for a 5-year-old boy. Just watching society break down around you.
It must have been terrifying. But this terrible crisis actually created the foundation for his entire life.
Wait, how so?
Well, it changed his destiny. During this famine, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stepped forward with a beautiful solution.
What did he do?
He wanted to help his uncle, Abu Talib. So he offered to take young Ali into his own home and raise him.
Oh, wow. That is so kind.
It really was. So at just 5 years old, this young boy moved into the house of the Prophet, and his wife, Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her.
That is a huge shift in his environment.
A massive shift.
I mean, he was suddenly living in the most spiritual and moral household in the whole city.
Exactly. And Khadija had recently gone through the heartbreaking loss of her own young son.
Oh, that is so sad.
Yeah. So bringing a 5-year-old boy into her home must have been a very emotional experience for her. She raised him with so much love, just like her own child.
Living in that house, he must have seen some incredible things.
Oh, absolutely. He was surrounded by perfect examples of honesty and compassion every single day.
Because a child just absorbs everything, right?
Yeah.
Like a sponge.
Right. His personality, his deep sense of justice, his faith, none of that was learned from a textbook.
He learned it just by watching them.
Exactly. He was molded by watching the Prophet handle daily life.
I often think about how our childhood environment shapes what we think is normal.
Oh, for sure.
If you grow up seeing people lie and cheat, you think the world is cruel. But if you grow up seeing someone give their last meal to a stranger,
You learn that sacrifice is normal. It becomes your standard for a good life.
that makes total sense. So with that background, his reaction to the start of Islam makes complete sense.
Yes, because he was living right there in the house. When the Prophet received the very first revelation, Ali was there.
How old was he?
He was only 10 years old.
10. That is so young.
Just 10. And he became the first male to accept Islam.
Wow. When we read history, we usually focus on adults making big decisions. We rarely think about the moral clarity of a 10-year-old.
It is remarkable, especially in a society that demanded absolute respect for the older generations and the old traditions.
Right, stepping away from the traditional tribal religion must have been dangerous.
Incredibly dangerous. The danger really cannot be overstated. Breaking away meant risking your social status, your safety, everything.
And history gives us a really clear picture of his courage just 3 years later, right?
Just when he was 13.
Tell us about that. What happened at 13?
The Prophet received the command to announce the message of Islam publicly to everyone.
Okay, so not just in secret anymore.
Right. So he organized a meal for his extended family. He invited all the most powerful, wealthy, and intimidating men of the tribe to his home.
Oh, wow. That must have been a very tense dinner party.
Oh, you can imagine. These were men who built their whole lives on the old system.
They probably didn't want to hear a message about human equality.
Not at all.
At
It
all.
challenged their power. The tension in that room was suffocating.
So what did the Prophet do?
After the meal, he stood up before all these powerful chiefs. He explained his divine mission, and then he asked a very direct question.
That was him.
He asked, "Who among you will support me in this mission?"
I can just picture the heavy silence in that room.
Yes, grown men, seasoned warriors, rich merchants, all just looking at the floor, refusing to make eye contact.
Nobody wanted to risk their reputation.
Nobody. The silence just stretched on. Not a single adult man moved.
Then,
Then, breaking that silence, the 13-year-old boy stood up.
just a young teenager.
Yes. In front of all these scary elders, young Ali spoke. He said to the Prophet, "My legs are thin and my eyes hurt, but I will always stand by you."
Oh, wow. I will always stand by you.
Yes. Think about how scary it is to disagree with people in a normal meeting today.
It is terrifying even now.
Exactly. Now imagine being a child, standing up to a room full of powerful leaders who could literally have you killed.
He knew he was the youngest and the smallest.
Right. But his moral compass was so strong, he didn't care about being afraid physically. He saw what was right, and he committed to it.
That is pure moral courage.
It really is. And he knew it would bring him hardship.
Did it?
Oh, yes. As he grew into a young man, the new Muslim community faced terrible persecution in Mecca.
Like physical harm.
Yes, the early believers were tortured, they were starved, they were oppressed.
Just for their beliefs.
Exactly. And eventually, this conflict reached a boiling point. The ruling elite decided they had to cut the message off at the source.
Meaning they went after the Prophet?
Yes. They made a coordinated plan to assassinate him while he slept.
That is horrible. How did they plan to do it?
It was a very calculated political plot. You see, in that tribal society, if one person committed murder, it would start a massive war between the tribes.
A blood feud.
Right. So to avoid that, they chose one warrior from every single tribe in Mecca.
Oh, I see. So everyone is guilty.
Exactly. The plan was for all these warriors to strike the sleeping prophet at the exact same time. That way, the guilt is spread across all tribes.
So no single family could be blamed or punished. That is an evil but politically perfect plan.
It was. They surrounded his house in the dark.
So the only way for the message to survive was for the Prophet to escape.
Yes, he had to leave Mecca and migrate to the city of Medina. This journey is known as the Hijra.
But how do you escape a house surrounded by armed killers?
You need a flawless diversion. He needed a decoy.
Someone to lie in his bed.
Yes, someone to sleep in his bed, wrapped in his Pacific green blanket.
So the assassins looking through the window would think he was still there.
Exactly, so they would wait until morning to attack.
But volunteering for that. That is literally volunteering for certain death.
It really is. If you lie in that bed, you were just waiting for killers to break the door down and attack you.
There is no escape plan for the decoy.
None. But Ali understood the reality perfectly, and he didn't hesitate for a single second.
He just did it.
He joyfully took the place in the bed. He wrapped himself in the blanket, completely willing to sacrifice his own life so the Prophet could escape safely.
Wow. And did the Prophet get away?
He did. He slipped away unnoticed. And when dawn finally broke, the assassins smashed into the room.
Oh my goodness.
They pulled back the blanket, raising their weapons, ready to strike.
And what did they see?
They were completely shocked to find the young Ali just staring back at them.
Just staring at them.
Yes. His total fearlessness in the face of death completely ruined their plot.
That is incredible. So the Prophet reached Medina safely.
Yes, he did. But surviving that night was just the beginning.
Right, because moving to Medina didn't end the conflict, did it?
No, it escalated into open warfare. The Meccan armies marched on Medina to wipe out the Muslims.
So this is where the young man in the bed turns into the ultimate warrior.
Exactly. The community had to defend itself, and that took immense physical courage. In the early battles, Ali was always at the very front lines.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's look at the first major conflict, the Battle of Badr. He was only 23 years old.
23. Still so young.
Very young. And the Muslim defenders were vastly outnumbered. They had very few weapons, almost no horses. They were facing a fully equipped army.
How did warfare work back then? Because it wasn't like modern war, right?
No, it was very different. Armies didn't just run at each other. They started with psychological warfare.
Like one-on-one combat?
Exactly. Duels. They used duels to break the morale of the other side.
So the Meccans probably sent out their biggest guys.
They did. They sent out their most famous, heavily armed champions. They walked out and shouted challenges.
And who stepped forward for the Muslims?
Young Ali stepped forward. In his very first major military engagement, at 23, he faced a seasoned champion.
What happened?
He defeated him swiftly.
Just like that.
Just like that. Winning that duel sent a shockwave through both armies.
I bet. The outnumbered defenders probably suddenly felt like, hey, we can actually win this.
Exactly. It boosted their morale completely. And he fought with incredible skill for the rest of the battle, securing a huge victory.
But he didn't just fight when they were winning, right?
No, he really proved his character when things fell apart.
When was that?
A perfect example is the Battle of Uhud.
What happened at Uhud?
Well, a tactical mistake caused the Muslim lines to collapse. Complete chaos broke out.
Oh, wow. War is terrifying when the lines break.
It is. Many fighters panicked and retreated, and the Prophet was left exposed to the enemy.
In a situation like that, human instinct is just to run away and save yourself.
Self-preservation takes over for most people, but not for him. He stayed.
He didn't run?
He planted his feet firmly next to the Prophet. He fought off waves of attackers from every direction. He basically acted as a human shield.
That is unbelievable bravery.
It really is. And it was during this desperate defense that he was given a very famous weapon.
A weapon? Which one?
He was given a unique double-edged sword known as Zulfikar.
Ah, Zulfikar. That is such an iconic symbol in history.
Yes, it represents justice, protection, and unparalleled skill.
And he used that sword in other battles too, right?
He did. He carried it into the Battle of the Trench, which was a terrifying siege.
A siege. So the city was surrounded.
Yes. The enemy forces dug in around the city, and they sent their most massive champion, a warrior named Am, across the trench.
How big was Anne?
He was infamous.
Yeah.
A giant of a man. His mere presence terrified the defenders.
Nobody wanted to fight him.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Except Ali. He stepped forward, totally calm and collected, and defeated the giant.
Wow. He broke the spirit of the invading army again.
He did. But I really want to talk about another famous campaign, the Battle of Khaybar.
Khaybar, why is that one so important?
Because it shows how essential he was. The Muslim army was stalled outside a very strong fortress. They were making no progress at all.
So they were stuck.
Completely stuck. And to make things worse, Ali was suffering from a terrible eye infection.
Oh no, so he couldn't fight.
His eyes were swollen shut, they were painful, and he was practically blind. He was resting in his tent.
From a strategic standpoint, having your best fighter blind during a siege is a complete disaster.
It was very frustrating for the army. But then, the Prophet called for him.
What happened?
Through a miraculous intervention, the Prophet cured his eye ailment completely.
Just like that, he could see again.
Yes. And then the Prophet handed him the standard, the flag of the army, and told him to lead the attack.
So the enemy probably sent out their best guy again.
They did. They sent out their most feared commander, Marhab. He was covered in heavy steel armor from head to toe.
So you have Ali, who was completely blind a minute ago, stepping up to face a heavily armored giant.
Yes, right in front of a massive fortress. And he defeated Marhab in single combat.
Incredibly.
Then he rallied the troops, led the charge, and finally broke through the defenses. He secured a total victory.
This creates a very intimidating historical picture.
It really does.
I mean, an undefeated warrior with a double-edged sword taking down giants. In our modern culture, we usually think people like that as harsh, aggressive, or arrogant.
We assume they demand luxury and want everyone to fear them.
Right. So if he was this terrifying on the battlefield, what was he like when he went home?
That is the most fascinating part of his character. He was the complete opposite. He was the furthest thing from an aggressive or arrogant general.
Really?
Really. He fought purely to protect innocent lives, never for personal glory, revenge, or wealth. When the armor came off, his life was defined by breathtaking humility.
Let's look closely at his personal life then. Who was he married to?
He was married to Fatima, may Allah be pleased with her. She was the beloved daughter of the Prophet.
So he was the son-in-law of the ultimate leader of the society.
Yes.
You would expect the top general and the leader's son-in-law to live in a huge mansion with servants.
Anyone else would have used that status to get incredibly rich.
Yeah.
But their household was totally different. They chose voluntary poverty.
Voluntary poverty, meaning they chose to be poor?
Yes. They did intense manual labor. They had no servants. Fatima spent her days grinding wheat and barley by hand with heavy stones.
That is exhausting work.
It was. Her hands were constantly covered in painful blisters from the grinding stones.
And while she was doing that, what was the greatest warrior in Arabia doing?
He was out working as a daily laborer just to survive.
Like doing physical chores.
The hardest physical jobs available. There is a deeply moving story of him working in another man's garden.
What was he doing?
His job was to draw water from a very deep well to water the crops.
Okay, pulling up buckets of water.
Yes, pulling heavy wooden buckets up, hour after hour, in the blazing desert heat. The ropes tore into his skin. He worked until his hands literally bled.
The commander of the army pulling ropes until his hands bleed.
Yes.
And what was his wage for this? How much did he get paid for bleeding hands?
His payment for a full day of agonizing labor was exactly 16 dates.
16 dates. Not gold, not silver, just dates.
Just 16 dates. He collected them, walked home, and shared them with Fatima and their 2 young sons, Hasan and Hussain.
And he never complained.
Never. He never asked the community for a salary for his military service.
Earning 16 dates for bloody hands, that just shatters the illusion that power requires luxury.
It really does. And he received a specific nickname during this time that captures his groundedness perfectly.
What was the nickname?
The title Abu Turab.
Abu Turab. What is the story behind that?
It is a beautiful story. One afternoon, the prophet went looking for Ali. He found him resting in the local mosque.
Was he sleeping on a comfortable rug?
No, he was fast asleep on the bare, unpaved floor of the mosque, and his back was completely covered in dust.
Just sleeping in the dirt?
Yes. The prophet walked over to him with so much affection, gently brushed the dirt off his back, and called him Abu Turab,
Which
translates directly to father of dust.
Father of dust. That is so poetic. It reminds us that we come from the earth and we return to the earth.
Exactly. And historical records show that he loved this title more than any military honor he ever got.
Why did he love it so much?
Because it came from a place of deep love from the prophet, and it reminded him to stay deeply connected to the common people and to the earth.
If you are listening to this right now, I really want you to pause and think about this lifestyle.
It is hard to even imagine today.
Right. Imagine a modern world where the highest-ranking politicians, the top generals, voluntarily chose to live exactly like their poorest.
Imagine a modern leader working a minimum wage manual labor job, coming home with calloused hands.
Just to understand the daily reality of the working class, it would completely revolutionize how governments run.
It really would. Today, leaders fly in private jets. They live in gated mansions.
They make policies about poverty, but they have never felt the sharp pain of hunger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he lived at the absolute bottom of the economic ladder by choice. He knew exactly what physical exhaustion felt like. He knew what it meant to struggle to feed a child.
Because he lived that reality, he developed a radical empathy for the poor.
Yes, a deep, true empathy.
And that empathy didn't just disappear when his circumstances changed, right?
No, it became the foundation of his government.
Right, because eventually this humble worker, covered in dust, was handed the keys to a massive empire.
He became the ruler, the 4th caliph.
So how did his empathy become political policy?
Well, when he became caliph, he took over an empire that covered vast territories. But he also inherited a huge crisis.
What kind of crisis?
The previous caliph, Uthman, had been tragically assassinated. Society was fractured, people were confused, and the government was on the edge of collapse.
Taking control of a divided nation after an assassination is basically the most dangerous political job imaginable.
It is a nightmare scenario. People from all over begged him to take the leadership to bring back order.
Now, a typical politician in that situation would try to secure their power first, right?
Oh, absolutely. They would make deals with the wealthy elite. They would offer bribes, ignore corruption just to stabilize things.
Standard dirty politics. But
Yeah.
what did he do?
He completely threw the playbook out the window. He established the golden standard of ethical leadership.
What was his first action as leader?
His very first executive action was to immediately dismiss all the corrupt governors in the provinces.
Wow. Just a massive, immediate firing of the most powerful men in the empire.
Yes, men who had gathered too much wealth and power illegally. He fired them all.
Didn't his advisors tell him that was political suicide?
They were terrified. They pleaded with him to wait.
What did they suggest?
They said, just leave the corrupt governors in place for a little while, just until you secure your own power, and then you can remove them later.
That sounds like practical political advice. Did he listen?
He flatly rejected it. He said that allowing a corrupt person to rule over innocent people for even one more day was a sin he would not carry.
So he refused to use injustice, even for a short time, to get peace.
Exactly. He would rather lose his position than sign his name to a corrupt appointment.
That level of integrity is just, we rarely see it. And what about the economy? How did he handle the massive wealth pouring into the state treasury?
That was his most radical change. Before him, public money was sometimes distributed in ways that favored prominent families or tribal leaders.
So a hierarchy of wealth was starting to form.
Yes, the rich were getting richer.
Ugh.
But he looked at the treasury and decided to dismantle that hierarchy entirely.
You do that.
He made a policy where the public treasury was completely empty out every single Friday.
Emptied out.
Yes, and the funds were distributed absolutely equally among all citizens.
Wait, I want to make sure I understand this. Are we saying a wealthy tribal chief with thousands of followers received the exact same amount of money as a poor streeter?
Exactly the same amount, down to the last coin.
That is a massive shock for the society. For the wealthy elite who are used to being treated as superior, being handed the same allowance as a freed slave must have felt like a huge insult.
Oh, it outraged the elite. But he firmly believed that public wealth belonged to the public.
It wasn't the government's money to buy loyalty.
Right. And it certainly wasn't a private bank account for the rich. The wealth belonged to God, to be shared equally by everyone.
That is amazing. He also moved the capital of the empire.
Yes, he moved the administrative capital to Kufa, which is a city in modern-day Iraq.
Moving the capital is a huge deal. When he arrived in Kufa as the new ruler, I imagine the local officials prepared a magnificent palace for him.
They certainly did. They proudly showed him the Grand Governor's Palace, a huge, luxurious castle right in the center of the city.
But the Father of Dust is not going to live in a castle, is he?
Not at all. He took one look at the huge walls and fancy gates, and he named it a castle of corruption.
Wow, he didn't even go inside.
He refused to even step foot in it. He told them he would not isolate himself behind heavy doors while the common people lived in small homes.
So where did he live?
He rented a very modest, simple house right next to the public mosque. He wanted every citizen to have direct, unrestricted access to him at all times.
He refused to let a building separate him from the reality of the street. He lived exactly as he asked his people to live.
Exactly.
You know, there is a specific historical anecdote I want to bring up because it really shows how obsessed he was with protecting public property.
Are you talking about the story of the two candles?
Yes, the two candles. Can you walk us through what happened in his small office that evening?
Absolutely. This story is a profound lesson in government ethics. He was sitting in his simple office late at night, reviewing state documents and managing the treasury.
So he was doing official government work?
Yes, and he was working by the light of a single candle. During this time, a friend stopped by to visit him.
Just a normal, casual visit?
Just a friendly visit. The friend sat down and they started talking. But as the conversation shifted away from official state business, and they started talking about personal things.
Like asking about their family's daily life?
Yes, casual talk. When that happened, Ali paused. He reached out and blew out the candle that was lighting the room.
So the room just went dark?
Yes, totally dark. Then he reached into his own personal bag, pulled out a different candle, and lit that one instead.
His friend must have been so confused.
The friend was completely bewildered. He asked him, "Why did you blow out one candle just to light another one?"
What was the logic behind it?
Ali explained it very simply. He said, "The first candle was purchased with money from the public treasury. I was using it while I was doing the public's work.
Ah, I see.
But now," he said, "you and I are having a private conversation. I have no right to use the public's light for my personal enjoyment. This second candle I bought with my own personal money."
He blew out a candle so he wouldn't steal a fraction of a penny's worth of wax from the public.
Yes, that is how careful he was.
When you compare that level of microscopic honesty to the corruption we see in the modern world today, it is staggering.
It really is. Politicians today use public funds for lavish dinners, corporate jets for family vacations.
Officials handing out massive contracts to their friends. But he viewed public property as a sacred fire that would literally burn him.
He viewed leadership as a terrifying responsibility, not a privilege. He believed God would question him for every single coin.
And he was especially careful with the most vulnerable members of society, wasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. There is another very powerful record of him walking through the marketplace in Kufa.
What happened there?
While he was inspecting the markets, he saw an old blind man sitting on the ground, begging for food.
Was the beggar a Muslim?
No, he was not. He belonged to a different faith community.
Seeing beggars was probably pretty common in ancient cities. How did the caliph react?
He didn't just toss a coin in a cup and walk away. He stopped his entire group. He was visibly angry.
Angry at the beggar?
No, not at all. He was angry at the local community leaders.
Right.
He demanded to know how society had allowed this to happen to a person.
What did he say?
He pointed at the blind man and said to his officials, "You used this man's labor and collected taxes from him when he was young and strong, and now that he is old and blind, you abandon him to beg in the streets."
Wow. He held the whole society accountable for throwing away human beings when they were no longer economically useful.
Yes, it is a brilliant critique of how societies just discard the elderly.
A critique of capitalism centuries before the word even existed. What did he do for the man?
He immediately issued a decree. He ordered that the old man be provided with a regular monthly pension directly from the state treasury.
So he would never have to beg again.
Exactly.
He essentially invented a state-funded retirement pen, a social welfare system for an old blind man, regardless of his religion.
He protected him simply because he was a human being in need. His commitment to universal human rights is one of his greatest legacies.
Is there any written record of this philosophy?
Yes, we see it perfectly in a famous document he wrote. He appointed a man named Malik Ashtar to be the new governor of Egypt.
Egypt was a massive and wealthy province.
Very wealthy. And before Malik left, Ali wrote him a comprehensive letter outlining the ethics of how to govern.
Normally, if you send a governor to a huge province, the instructions are about maximizing taxes, securing borders, or stopping rebellions. What did his letter focus on?
The letter reads like a modern charter of human rights. It details how to select honest judges, how to balance the economy, and how to protect the poor from greedy merchants.
That is beautiful.
But the most striking part is a single sentence that defines his entire worldview.
What is the sentence?
He instructed his new governor, "Remember, Malik, that among your subjects there are two kinds of people. Either they are your brothers in faith, or they are your equals in humanity."
Your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity.
It is so profound.
If you are listening right now, truly write that phrase down. It means that shared humanity is enough for perfect justice.
You don't have to share my religion, my language, or my tribe.
Right. Just being human guarantees you my respect and your rights.
It is a total rejection of prejudice and bigotry. He told his governor not to act like a predatory beast looking to devour the citizens. He demanded mercy.
It sounds like a perfect utopian vision of justice. But realistically, Emma, when you enforce absolute equality like that, when you take away the privileges of the wealthy and you refuse to play dirty politics, you make a lot of powerful, dangerous enemies.
You have hit on the central tragedy of his time in power. The elite are not going to hand over their power quietly.
Right. His refusal to compromise is exactly what caused the turbulence, isn't it?
Yes. The wealthy elite and the tribal leaders, who were used to being treated like royalty, were furious with his equal distribution of wealth.
Because they couldn't bribe him.
They couldn't bribe him, and they couldn't control him. This tension eventually erupted into a devastating period known as the Fitna.
Which translates to a time of civil war, right?
Yes, a time of severe trial and civil war.
That is just heartbreaking. A man who spent his youth fighting to protect the community from outside invaders now had to watch the society fracture from within.
It was deeply painful. Historical events forced a deep division. Rebellions broke out against his government, leading to major tragic conflicts.
Like the Battle of the Camel.
Yes, the Battle of the Camel, where misunderstandings and political grievances led to horrific fighting between former allies, and later, a grueling conflict known as the Battle of Siffin against the governor of Syria.
The psychological burden of that must have been immense. He didn't want these wars. He wasn't trying to conquer new lands.
He was just trying to hold a fracturing society together. He went to extraordinary lengths to avoid bloodshed.
What did he try to do?
He spent months sending letters, offering negotiations, pleading with the opposition to resolve things peacefully.
But they refused.
When rebel armies organized and marched against the state, threatening innocent lives, he was forced to fulfill his duty as the leader and defend the state.
However, even in the middle of a brutal civil war, his behavior was totally unique.
Completely unique.
Because normally, war strips away a society's morals. Leaders become paranoid dictators. They suspend human rights, lock up dissidents, and execute anyone who speaks against them.
That is the usual pattern in history.
Did he become a dictator during this crisis?
Not at all. His tolerance during wartime was completely unprecedented. He maintained civil liberties even when his own life was in danger.
So he allowed freedom of speech.
Complete freedom of speech. He permitted his citizens to publicly disagree with his policies.
Can you give an example?
There are astonishing accounts of him standing on the pulpit in the main mosque, delivering a sermon, and individuals would stand up right in the middle of the crowd to shout insults at him.
Wait, people were publicly shouting insults at the ruler of the empire while he was speaking?
Yes. In almost any other ancient or modern kingdom, doing that gets you immediately dragged to a dungeon and executed for treason.
What did his guards do?
His armed guards certainly wanted to arrest the people shouting. They moved in to silence the hecklers.
But what did Ali do?
He commanded his guards to stop. He told them to leave the men alone.
He just let them yell.
He established a clear legal precedent. Words can only be answered with words. He stated that as long as these dissenters did not take up weapons and did not harm innocent people, they had the absolute right to speak their minds safely.
That level of emotional regulation is incredible. To have the power to crush your critics with a single word and to deliberately choose patience instead.
It is remarkable.
But eventually, some groups did cross the line from speech to violence, didn't they?
Yes, unfortunately. The most tragic example was a radical extremist faction known as the Kharijites.
Who were they?
They broke away from his army. They developed a very distorted, rigid, and arrogant interpretation of faith.
Meaning they thought they were the only ones who were right.
Exactly. They decided that anyone who disagreed with their extreme political views was an enemy.
What did they do?
They started roaming the countryside, terrorizing civilians and murdering innocent people.
That is the danger of arrogant piety, isn't it? When people believe they are the only ones who are right, they quickly justify horrific violence against everyone else.
It is a dangerous trap. He tried to reason with them first, sending representatives to debate and counsel them.
But it didn't work?
No. When they continued their campaign of murder, he realized he could no longer just use words. As the caliph, his primary responsibility was to protect the innocent blood of his citizens.
So he had to use force.
Only then did he ride out with his army to neutralize the threat.
He defeated them in battle.
He did.
Yeah.
But extremist ideologies are very hard to kill completely.
Right. The ideas survive.
Yes. The surviving radicals harbored a deep, burning hatred for him. And this leads us to the final tragic chapter of his life.
The tragedy of his martyrdom.
Yes. It is one of the most sorrowful events in history. It happened in the year 661 CE, during the holy month of fasting.
Can you tell us what happened?
It was early in the morning, still dark outside. He walked to the great mosque in Kufa to lead the morning prayer.
Just a normal morning routine for him.
Yes. But unbeknownst to him, a Kharijite assassin named Ibn Muljam had been hiding inside the mosque, waiting for him.
Waiting to strike a man while he is engaged in prayer. That is so cowardly.
While Ali was bowing in prayer, completely absorbed in his connection with God, the assassin leapt from the shadows and struck him on the head.
Oh, that is terrible.
And the weapon was a sword that had been heavily soaked in deadly poison.
It is just a devastating end to a life dedicated to protecting others. He is struck down in his own mosque by a man he was trying to protect from extremism.
The poison seeped into his system over the next few days. But Sania, the true measure of a person is how they act in their final moments.
When all the pretense falls away.
Exactly. Even as he lay dying, suffering from the intense pain of the poison, his moral compass never wavered.
Now, most rulers in that situation would order a massive retaliation, right?
Oh, they would order the execution of the assassin's entire family, burn down their village, and demand torture.
So what were his final instructions?
He called his family to his side and gave strict orders regarding his murderer. He absolutely forbade them from engaging in any wide-scale revenge.
What did he say?
He said, "Do not shed the blood of Muslims," saying, "The commander of the faithful has been assassinated."
So no mob justice.
No mob justice. He then instructed them on how to treat the assassin who was being held prisoner.
Did he want him starved or tortured?
No. He ordered that the prisoner be fed the exact same food they ate and given water.
He ordered them to feed his own assassin well.
Yes. And he declared, "If I survive, I will decide whether to forgive him or punish him. If I die, punish him with one single strike of the sword exactly as he struck me."
Exactly as he struck me. Perfect proportionality.
Yes. He said, "Do not torture him, do not mutilate his body, and do not harm anyone else."
Even with poison in his veins, he is regulating the justice. No torture, no collective punishment, just absolute restrained justice.
It proves that his character wasn't an act.
Right. Rulership was never a prize to be won. It was a sacred trust, and he carried that trust right up to his final breath.
Although his physical life ended in tragedy, his intellectual and moral legacy only grew stronger.
Because his followers preserved his teachings, right?
Yes, his sermons and letters were carefully preserved. Centuries later, a prominent scholar collected his most powerful speeches and writings into a monumental book.
What is the book called?
It is called Nahj al-Balagha.
Nahj al-Balagha. What does that title signify?
It translates to the peak of eloquence. It is widely considered one of the absolute masterpieces of Arabic literature and philosophy.
What kind of topics does it cover?
The text is astonishing in its depth. It covers theology, the creation of the universe, the psychology of human greed, the ethics of leadership, and really profound spiritual advice.
You know, for our listeners who are navigating a modern world overflowing with information and data, I think his perspective on education is incredibly relevant.
Absolutely.
In Nahj al-Balagha, how did he define the value of knowledge?
He had a very pragmatic view of education. One of his most enduring quotes from the collection is, "The best knowledge is that which benefits the listener. The knowledge which does not benefit anybody is useless."
That cuts right through the vanity of modern academia.
It really does. Today, we often treat knowledge as a way to show off,
Right, we memorize complex theories just to sound smart in meetings or to win arguments online.
But he is saying that if your brilliance doesn't actually help another human being, if it doesn't solve a problem or bring comfort, it is completely worthless.
He demanded that wisdom be applied to reality. He wanted people to use their intellect to actually relieve the suffering of others.
Yes, and it is because of this brilliant mix of intellect, bravery, and profound justice that he stands today as an incredibly unifying figure across the Muslim world.
As we look at his legacy, I think it is really important to understand how different communities view him today. History naturally led to different theological perspectives on leadership.
Yes, after the passing of the Prophet, the community eventually developed different understandings of succession.
Right. So how do Sunni Muslims view him?
Sunni Muslims hold him in immense respect as the fourth rightly guided caliph. They view his era as a shining model of piety, strict adherence to the law, and perfect justice.
And they honor him as one of the most knowledgeable and courageous companions in history.
Exactly.
And for Shia Muslims, his role takes on a different theological dimension, right?
Yes, for Shia Muslims, he is revered as the first imam. They hold the belief that he was the rightful spiritual and political successor, chosen directly by divine decree.
So in their view, his leadership is the flawless embodiment of divine wisdom and spiritual guidance.
Yes, but we have these distinct theological and historical frameworks, and the beautiful takeaway is the point of intersection.
Meaning where they agree.
Exactly. Despite the different lenses through which history is viewed, every single perspective leads to the exact same conclusion about his character.
Everyone sees a man of unbelievable courage, a scholar of deep wisdom, and a leader of perfect humility.
The love for him is truly universal. Whether you are looking at his life as a model caliph or an infallible imam, you are looking at a man who prioritized the rights of the poor over the comforts of the rich.
You are looking at a man who valued truth over political survival.
Right.
You know, our modern world is aggressively fractured right now. We are divided by politics, by class, by race, and by religion.
It is a very divided time.
But when we study a historical figure like this, it forces us to find common ground.
It really does. If we take his advice to Malik Ashtar seriously, that everyone is either a brother in faith or an equal in humanity, we have a blueprint for healing our societies.
We can disagree on theology, but we can all agree that the blind beggar deserves a pension and the state's wealth belongs to the people.
That shared humanity is the ultimate lesson of his life. If we can adopt even a fraction of his empathy, his commitment to justice, and his willingness to sacrifice his own comfort for the safety of others,
we could dramatically transform the world around us.
Absolutely.
Let's distill this deep dive down to the core practical lessons that you, our listener, can carry with you.
There are so many, but three really stand out.
First, remember the 13-year-old boy in the room full of silent adults. Always stand up for what is right, even when you are the only one standing.
Yes, moral courage does not require a fancy title or wealth. It only requires conviction.
Second, remember the letter to the governor. Treat every single person you interact with today with profound dignity.
Whether they agree with your worldview or not, they are your equal in humanity, and they deserve your respect.
And third, remember the father of dust. No matter how much success, wealth, or influence you accumulate in your career, remain firmly grounded.
If the ruler of an empire spanning continents can sleep on a dusty floor and work until his hands bleed to feed his family, there's absolutely no excuse for arrogance in our own life.
These are incredibly challenging standards to live by, but they are the standards that create a truly meaningful life.
I couldn't agree.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to turn over in your...
What is that?
At some point in your life, you will be given power. It might not be over an empire. It might be managing a small team at work, leading a classroom of students, or even just guiding your own children at home.
Power comes in many forms.
It does. And when that moment comes, ask yourself a question. Am I using this power to build a comfortable castle for my own ego? Or am I blowing out the candle, recognizing this authority as a heavy, sacred responsibility, just like he did?
That is a powerful question to end on.
Thank you for taking the time to explore this profound history with us. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Keep learning, stay curious, and we will talk to you next time. Goodbye.